مگر تا الان کسی شک داشت که هدف آمریکا سیطره بر منابع کشورهای دیگر هست؟ صحبت‌های گراهام رو دیدید. با خوشحالی میگه که اگر ما بتوانیم نفت ایران رو هم تصاحب کنیم، در کنار نفت ونزوئلا بر 31% از منابع نفتی دنیا مسلط خواهیم شد.
We're in a very good position, but very unfair to other parts of the world, like China as an example. I mean, we're doing this for the other parts of the world, including countries like China. They get a lot of their oil through the straits. So we're doing this. We have a very good relationship with President Xi in China. I'm going there in a short period of time. And we're protecting the world from what these lunatics are trying to do. And very successfully, I might add. We're also waiving certain oil-related sanctions to reduce prices. So we have sanctions on some countries. We're going to take those sanctions off till this straightens out. Then who knows, maybe we won't have to put them on. There'll be so much peace. But when the time comes, the U.S. Navy and its partners will escort tankers through the strait if needed. I hope it's not going to be needed, but if it's needed, we'll escort them right through.
Well, first, this is very much part of Iran's strategy to spike the price of oil when Americans go to the gas pump and negatively impact public opinion in the United States.
As a way to stop the war.
To restrain President Trump's ambitions. And they've done this over the course of the last 4 decades. So it's not a new strategy. We should have anticipated it. The challenge for these oil tankers passing through Strait of Hormuz is insurance. Very few insurance companies will want to insure these massive tankers given the enormous risks. Iran can swarm these tankers with $20,000 drones, and that strategy, obviously Iran is much, much weaker than the United States, but so far that strategy has borne fruit for them.
Let's talk about the new leader of Iran, the former leader's son. Trump calls his rise to power a big mistake. He's being coy, though, about the new supreme leader's future. Listen.
So does he have a target on his back? And how can you say
I don't want to say whether or not he does, because that would be inappropriate.
It indeed would be. But what do you think of him as the new leader and the trajectory of his leadership?
So first, President Trump's goal in Iran was similar to what he managed to do in Venezuela, which was we detained the #1 guy in Venezuela, Maduro, brought him to justice in New York, and very quickly the Trump administration was able to do a deal with his successor, Delcy Rodriguez. He was hoping to recreate that dynamic in Iran. It didn't work just with military threats and economic pressure, so Ayatollah Khamenei ended up being assassinated. His hope, the president's hope, was that he could do a deal with the successor. But what the Iranian regime has decided to do is essentially replace Khamenei with his mini-me, his son, Mojtaba, age 56, whose worldview is the same. And so I do think...
Is he well known?
He is. It's interesting you asked that question because his name is very familiar to Iranians,
right,
but his face and his voice are not familiar. He was someone who always operated kind of in the shadows. And even now, He's injured. He's essentially probably living in a bunker and hiding, trying to elude assassination. And I asked someone inside the country, how can he manage the country? And they said he's not interested in governing. He's interested in fighting.
The Strait of Hormuz is a narrow sort of choke point in a waterway in the Persian Gulf, and it sits just to the south of Iran and just to the north of the UAE. And it's a critical point in the waterway because much of the world's energy, be it oil products, liquefied natural gas, transits through that choke point, which again, fuels life, I suppose, in Asia and the rest of the world. So from a crude oil point of view, about 20% of the world's oil flows through there on a daily basis. So too the same for liquefied natural gas, and slightly higher as well for petrochemical feedstocks as well. So things that go into making plastics. So essentially this really narrow choke point waterway is critical to the global economy. As it stands, it is not officially closed. However, there is a sort of de facto closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Reasons for that is the Iranians are attacking or threaten to attack any sort of vessels that pass through the strait. And given the nature of the conflict and how widespread it is in the Middle East right now, freight rates for ships are prohibitively high, and there is a lack of basically insurance being given to any vessel.
All of this uncertainty is rippling around the world. Oil prices have shot up, stock prices have bounced around, and other countries are now signaling that they too could soon join the fight against Iran. Iran's appointment of a new supreme leader has only added to this combustible mix. This new leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, is known as a hardliner who seems unlikely to compromise. That makes him a target of Israel and the U.S., and that raises the likelihood of even more and continued conflict.
This is a really unprecedented disruption of oil and gas supply to world markets. And so we've seen oil shocks in the past when supplies got disrupted, but we've never seen all 20 million barrels per day of oil, that's crude and refined products, that come from the Middle East Gulf and transit through that narrow Strait of Hormuz be almost completely shut off for a week plus. It's never happened before. Why is 20 million barrels a day important? Because it's 1/5 of everything that the whole planet uses. So we use about 100 million barrels per day. 20 million barrels per day is 20% of that. And so it's a huge blow to trying to control prices. Prices are naturally going to have to move higher in response to shorter supply. And if we keep on pushing above $100 a barrel and get more toward like 110, I think you're going to see that nationwide pump price average get close to $4 a gallon. That's painful for consumers, and it's probably also painful for elected leaders, the politicians. We're also going to see higher prices in things like airfares. So travel will become more expensive. And then we also have to worry about the second order effects on things like the equity markets. So if people's stock portfolios are going down, their 401ks are less valuable than before, we're going to lose consumer confidence and maybe even business spending. That points us in the direction toward a possible recession. The whole system is becoming a little bit paralyzed, but especially in the Middle East Gulf. So until that lifts, until those tanker movements restore kind of normal operations, we're going to see things like gasoline prices elevated. And I'm afraid that $4 a gallon might only be the first stop, because even if the current war in this phase draws to an end, we now have a new chapter of geopolitical instability in that really important region of the world for oil and gas supplies. I think it's going to be with us for quite a while, conceivably even through the rest of the term of President Trump's term.
Wala naman tayong magagawa dahil nagkakaroon na talaga ng giyera sa Iran. So kailangan na lang tayo talagang magtipid ng paggamit ng crudo or gasoline.
Ngayon nahihirapan na kami magkarga ng gasolina dahil dumadami ng nagpapakarga ng gasolina sa ngayon dahil nababalitaan natin tataas daw ang gasolina bukas. Ngayon nahirapan kami ngayon magkakarga ng gasolina ngayon. Kita nyo po, dala ko na ang galon para makapagkarga lang. Kasi siksikan na po hindi na makasingit Hindi ko na maisbilay, mahaba na ang pila dito ng jeep
At titiyakin pa rin naman natin na tuloy-tuloy na makapagserbisyo bagamat hirap dahil talagang malaking epekto niyan. Dahil yung 23 pesos ay hindi biro per liter, At kung kami nga ay nagkukonsume ng 30 liters per day, ay halos nasa 600 pesos yung mawawala sa amin para dahil ng bunga ng pagtaas ng petrolyo.
Bây giờ em phải đi đổ lần đầu mà thấy xếp hàng khổ quá. Từ sáng là đi đã thấy xếp hàng rồi. Ngay trưa cũng tranh thủ ra xếp hàng.
Không mua được. Xếp hàng từ nãy giờ là 30 phút rồi nhưng mà xếp được 30 phút thì đến bây giờ thì lại bảo là không bán nữa.
Nói chung đều cái giá tăng dầu tăng như thế này thì ảnh hưởng đến nền kinh tế của Việt Nam và cá nhân những người tiêu dùng. Tất cả các hoạt động từ sinh viên đến những cái người tóm lại là sử dụng xe xăng là đều có ảnh hưởng đến kinh tế.
播报新闻是我的日常，必须时刻保持妆容和皮肤的最佳状态。当来到人生中最重要的时刻，也是 KS 逆时奇迹帮助我轻松驾驭，闪闪发光。KS 逆时奇迹活肤露全效精华、精华霜，多达5种 EGF 6大冻龄关键成分，保湿效果让我非常满意，小细纹也不再困扰我。我就是我自己的最佳女主角 ，KS 让我从容自信、光彩动人。我是我人生中的大女主，我的最爱我做主。KS 逆时奇迹系列热卖中，下单请上快点购，透过中天新闻网 App 下单立减50，或输入 CTI 推荐码有额外折扣。